On this episode of Pit Stop, we spill the tea on some crazy news at Red Bull. Then we hop in the time machine to discuss Senna, Mansell, Leclerc, and Hamilton, and make the case for the greatest home race wins ever.
Welcome to Pit Stop with Don and James. I'm James.
And I'm Don.
Maybe I should just have you do it, all the read-ins, since we always say your name first. It doesn't really work well when I go first.
Well, whatever works.
Whatever works, man. A lot of news. We're sort of late to the game since we're only on a weekly basis, but Christian Horner has gotten the boot.
Yeah, huge news during this off week, huh? We are between Silverstone and Spa right now, the first of two off weeks, if I've got that right.
Yep.
And
right.
or maybe, and then in the meantime, the biggest news is team principal news. So Christian Horner out at Red Bull.
Yeah, I think we found out Wednesday morning over here since we're stateside, and crazy that's going on. Christian Horner, of course, has been in the game for a long time. He himself a former racer, not in F1, but definitely an auto enthusiast on the side. But he's had tremendous success. I don't know. There's still a lot of speculation going on about everything. Supposedly, Jos Verstappen had something to do with it. I guess they had some sort of big blowout. I'm sure he made some threatening comments, something along the lines of like, hey, if you want Max to stay here at Red Bull, then you got to get rid of Horner. Obviously, we don't really know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but it's kind of wild, especially with the success that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, Red Bull has been around for 20 years in the Formula One game, and they really started with him, right? I mean, he's been a part of their whole buildup. My understanding about Horner, and I'll get to the speculation, and we should probably say that up front. Like pretty much at this point, yes. We don't have much in the way of like official stuff from the team. They're supposedly dealing with him fairly amicably, I guess you could call it. Like he's still going to be employed by Red Bull, evidently. I don't know under what in what kind of capacity, probably as a brand ambassador of some kind, but won't be the team principal going forward. He was also, I think, the head of their Red Bull powertrains. That they were trying to develop their own engine. They've been supplied by Honda for the last several years. Before that, they were driving with a Renault power unit. So, they were trying to develop their own powertrain in conjunction with Ford, if I'm not mistaken. So he was heading that up too. So a lot of stuff on Christian's plate, honestly. He's been a stalwart, around the Formula One game for a long time. So it is a huge shakeup. Maybe the single biggest team principal firing, that you could think of. Him and Toto Wolff and Zach Brown are kind of the big dogs around the paddock, and
right.
So yeah, really huge. I was reading about it. My understanding about his history. He had wanted to buy Jordan Racing himself, and had a company. You're right. He was a Formula 3000 racer. He was no slouch in racing. I mean, that's to get to that level is a pretty impressive feat. But he, to kind of have a little callback, I was reading about him, and he decided he didn't want to keep going. He didn't have what it took to be a Formula One driver. He kind of decided that on his own. And actually, I don't know if you've told this story. I can't remember for sure, but you're a couple of off weeks ago, we were talking about the greatest racers to never win the F1 championship, and you were talking about Juan Pablo Montoya. and and do I have that right? I think that's what I think that's
Yeah,
who you were
that's right.
talking
Yeah,
about.
that's right.
And he was doing a test drive, and Horner was present at the test drive, and he was seeing what Juan Pablo was doing in the car, and he's like, I can't do that, pushing the car to his absolute limit around turns and stuff like that, um, and Horner said, I don't think this is for me. I can't force myself to have that kind of like bravery or whatever. So at that point, he decided he was going to give up on the racing dream, and but he loves racing too much, right? And so he ends up wanting to buy this team. I guess he must have had some money because he was on the hunt for a team. As this article that I read stated it, um, he he goes to buy a trailer for his team from Helmet. Helmet Marco is selling
Is
a
that right?
trailer that they were going to need, and yeah, they meet up, hit it off, and and um, at that point, Marco introduces him to Dietrich. I can never say his last name right. He just the Red Bull guy, Matisich, whatever. And they introduce him, and that's what starts the relationship. Red Bull wants to get into the racing game, gets in, and immediately hires Horner to help them run the outfit. So that's how they that's kind of how he got into Formula One and on the team ownership, team running side. So he kind of gives up his dream of being an owner, a small owner, and decides instead to help them build a racing brand. And I mean, come on, I mean, Horner, if you can make the case that he is annoying or a cocky, arrogant, whatever, you can say any of these things. He did build Red Bull Racing into a powerhouse. So he accomplished some pretty big stuff and got married to a Spice Girl along the way.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, he did buy the what is it, Arden International. I think it was with his dad. They started that team for the Formula 3000 Championship, which used to be a feeder series. And then 2005 became the youngest team principal. I say youngest, he was still 31. So, um, but he did start with Red Bull, and that's been his whole career in F1, right? And he's had tons of success. I think they've won 8 drivers' championships, um, 6 constructors' championships, and I think it was 124 races across his 21-year span at Red Bull. So I mean, he's no slouch. He's had a lot of ups and downs, but he's had some great success. And yeah, about him staying on the payroll, I'm not really sure what the purpose of that is at Red Bull. Maybe it's just to keep him from signing somewhere else. Uh, uh,
yeah.
I don't think Red Bull want to go against him, especially with how much Christian Horner knows, right? Being a team principal. So, but yeah, shocking news. It was definitely not on my bingo card. We had made tons of speculation about Yuki Tsunoda being replaced, especially with all the ups and downs with the drivers this year. You know, Never did it cross my mind that they would replace Horner, seeing him as the
Oh
problem.
yeah.
So, uh, blew my mind out of left
Yeah.
field. I'm still in shock by it. The news is still unfolding. But where does he go from here? People have been saying he might go to Alpine. People have saying he might go to Ferrari. I mean, the way Ferrari's going right now, I used to think Fred Vasseur was the guy for Ferrari. I thought he was going to kind of be the redemption that Ferrari needed. But after hearing the team radios and the back and forth about how they just do not care about what the drivers have to say, especially when it comes to strategy, I don't know. Maybe Horner does go to Ferrari and take over Fred Vasseur's spot. I think they need to figure it out if he wants to keep his job.
Yeah. I mean, there's any number of places he could go. I think Horner has personal loyalty to Red Bull. I mean, it's basically it's like his thing, his baby, uh, his work, and you're right. They've won so much. They've done such a good. It's an energy drink company from Austria, and they are
Right.
in there with the likes of Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, it is kind of incredible what they've been able to do in this realm. So for as much as he can be dislikable, I don't even know that. Like, I don't find him that uh, problematic. Having said that, when you watch The Drive to Survive, which he's been um, prominently featured on, sometimes he
Right.
says things that I think are a little bit like, I don't know, just condescending or something towards other teams. But I mean, this is competitive sports, and I guess it's to be
Right.
expected a little bit. As far as where he goes, yes, you're right. Um, I have seen articles speculating Ferrari. I don't know what's going on at Ferrari. They just aren't achieving what they want to with Fred Vasseur. He's definitely helped them take a leap. I think Fred has gotten them beyond where Mattia Binotto was able to take them, and so there is some level of like, well, that would be interesting to have him go there. You're also right about the Alpine rumors. He's evidently quite friendly with Flavio Briatore. So, in fact, I read one article that said his dogs are named after Flavio.
Oh no.
Uh, so, evidently they are a bit thick as thieves, and so that could be a thing. Although I think that would be a personal. Um, Knowing how Christian Horner talks, he talks about the big dogs, right? So I think he wants to be on a big dog team. So I don't know, could could end up on a bigger team, uh, which I don't see Zach Brown going anywhere. I don't see Toto going anywhere. So I don't know what that really just leaves Ferrari, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. Really interesting. We should say too that in the meantime, he's being replaced by Laurent Mekies. I don't know how you say his name, but uh, he's been slated to kind of take over for him in the meantime. Who himself is no stranger to F1.
So I mean, he worked for Arrows and Minardi, who were kind of on the lower teams, but had some big names come through. Christian Albers and Mark Webber and
Mm-hmm.
Justin Wilson. But I mean, he's been at Toro Rosso for quite some time. I think 2005. So he knows what he's doing.
Well, yeah, knowledgeable guy, but we'll see. I mean, some big shoes to fill, the Horner shoes. I don't know about you, but we're you and I are both kind of music fans. When I look at Laurent, I see Kirk Hammett from Metallica. I don't know if you
Yeah.
if you think the same thing. People need to go look that up. Look up Laurent Mekies and Kirk Hammett from Metallica. See if there's similarities.
I was actually going to say he looks more like, oh, what's his name? Brandon Boyd from Incubus.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, it looks
That's what
like
I see when
somebody
I
in
look
music.
at him.
I see Kirk Hammett.
I can see that
Yeah,
one too.
yeah.
So I just pulled up Mecky's page. So he moved to Scuderia Ferrari in September of 2018 as the sporting director. He was put in charge of the track and performance department in 2019 and was appointed as deputy team principal and racing director for Ferrari in 2021. 2023, it was announced he would be leaving Ferrari and going over to um, Red Bull as team principal for the junior team. And now he is replacing Christian Horner as the chief executive officer and team principal of Red Bull Racing. So, no slouch. Been on the minor teams. This is the second big team. I think people are expecting big things from him. I mean, he's having success right now, right? Last year and this year, not so much last year, but this year for sure with Isaac Hadjar, right? So maybe this is the key for Hadjar to getting in.
Maybe. Yeah, I had not made that connection, but you may bring up a great point. So,
Maybe
I
we're just waiting for the other shoe to drop now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been waiting now for a few weeks, I'd say, for Yuki news because, and I think that might this might be the nail in the coffin for Yuki, to be honest. Somebody making a move. Um, I don't know what the blow up with Yas is about. Maybe it could be they're not getting enough support for Max. I mean, Max is getting an awful lot done for Red Bull. I don't know what else they need other than maybe a second car to give them a tow here and there, or block some traffic for him here and there. So maybe Yas is thinking that maybe Yas just doesn't like Christian. I don't know. It seems a little crazy to me that Yas would have that much influence over what happens at the top of Red Bull. I mean, I feel like Red Bull Racing is bigger than Yas Verstappen. So that's a little uh, you know, I did hear that they had a big blowout. There was a shouting match after one of the recent races. I mean,
I think it was after Silverstone.
was it okay?
I think
Yeah,
so.
well, I mean, it wasn't a great result for Max, but it wasn't Max's or Red Bull's fault really. He spun out, dropped back in the order, and had to
Right.
battle back to P5. So I'm not really sure. Like it would I wouldn't take it too kindly if somebody came up and was getting on my case about that, like, man, maybe he could look to Horner for not clamping down on the engineers who decided to set up his car as a low downforce car. I don't know, but they took a gamble. I mean, Yas is a former Formula One racer. He knows that there's a significant amount of gambling that goes into this game, and I mean not money gambling, just chance taking to try to win. So I don't know. That would seem bizarre to me, but this has been going on for a while. I've been hearing for probably at least 2, if not 3 years, that Jos Verstappen has had some disputes with Christian Horner. Um, so, but that's not the only thing I think at play here. There's been a lot of other things speculated about his firing. We should. I got a few things to mention. One, we've talked about it a little bit with Yuki, and not only Yuki but Checo and Liam Lawson. Just the second car, the lack of production out of that second seat. I don't know how much that's being blamed on Horner for not pursuing the right talent. Um, so that could be one thing. Stagnant car development. There has been a little bit of um, an issue with their car not being the fastest car out there, and they seem to have dropped behind not only Red Bull but possibly behind Ferrari and even maybe Mercedes. So that drop from being the dominant car during the Max Verstappen um, four consecutive drivers championships to where they are right now, that could be at play. Having said that, this is the ebb and flow of Formula One racing. I really am surprised if that's the sole reason. And then another thing, they have lost a lot of key personnel. So I don't know if the Red Bull shareholders or whatever are looking at Horner going like, well, hey, why are we hemorrhaging talent, right? So some of the people they've lost, Adrian Newey,
Big one.
to
Big one.
Aston Martin, yeah, probably the single biggest one. He's legendary car designer. Jonathan Wheatley, lost him to Sauber, was it? Um, and Rob Marshall and Will Courtney. So they're losing some of their big talent um, to these other teams. That almost bothers me too. I mean, maybe the Adrian Newey one bothers me, but because he's great and they should have done what they could to hang on to him. But in the world of management, you are trying to. It's almost a sign of respect and success when the people that are under you progress, right? So some of these guys were going from working for Christian to being team principals and in other important positions at teams. I don't see why you hold that against the guy. I mean, but maybe at this high of a level, you have to do what you can to keep people around them. So I don't know. Maybe they were leaving because they didn't like Christian. If that's the case, then yeah, that's a problem. So, yeah, those were some of the other reasons I think we need to think about when it comes to why he lost his job. the other thing, of course, was that he had some controversy. That was last season and a half ago. He was involved in some sexual harassment, kind of, I don't know, bullying or manipulation type behavior with with an employee, at least one employee at Red Bull. Ultimately, he was cleared from that. It was investigated and found to not be worth any more time or trouble. So yeah, I don't know what to make of that. I mean,
Yeah, it's a sticky one.
but I mean that was the only real controversy that I know that I'm aware of there. So anyway, do you have any thoughts about any of that? I just talked for a really long
No,
time.
you're good, man. Yeah, you're right. Well, I mean, I think Horner is a really good team principal. You know, he has found talent, he's fostered talent, and with his employees moving on to bigger and better things, I think that's what you ultimately want as a manager, right? I mean, but in the world of competitive sports, you want to withhold talent and keep everything indoors, right? So I'm not really sure why Newey left. Maybe Newey got bored and decided it wasn't a challenge enough and he wants something more of a challenge. Uh, Maybe the dude's just greedy and just wants more money. Who knows? Like, but I mean, how much money do you really need, at his age, making the money he's been making all these years? So, we can speculate all we want, but I think the thought had crossed my mind that maybe since Newey went to Aston Martin, maybe Aston Martin would try and get a hold of Horner, and put the dynamic duo back together. Not that Newey really needs a number two individual, but every all good things come in pairs, right?
Well, they have separate roles, and Newey is not a guy to manage the drivers or any of that kind of stuff. His skill set is developing or designing the car, to be honest.
Yeah,
So do not put it past Lawrence Stroll. I mean, Lawrence Stroll will pay to get guys like him. So yeah, I think that's a maybe just as likely as any of the other options we just talked about. Lawrence Stroll wants his son's the best for his son, and he's a businessman too, and knows that he's got to do what's good for business. I think it would be a great poach to grab him. As we talked earlier, I don't think Horner's on the market just yet, but yeah, that could be a match that they make.
yeah. I guess we're just gonna wait another week and see what else develops. I mean, the season's
Yeah.
only half over. There's still half a season to go. Maybe this is the turning point that Red Bull needs. I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. I'm excited to see what happens, though. It's really setting up the second half of the season to have some behind the scenes drama, which is always just as exciting as everything that's going on track.
Well, and I mean, let me know what your thoughts are about um, what does this mean for the Red Bull team going forward? Where do we think they're going to go? And do you think that this is, to an extent, Red Bull saying this is a lost cause this season for the constructors and the drivers championship, which they're in, what is it, fourth place, chasing? Are they letting go of the idea that they might even have a chance at those?
I think that obviously McLaren are going to run away with the drivers and the constructors championship. That's just the way it is. Especially in the constructors championship, they are so far ahead of everybody that I don't think there's any way to recover by anybody else, right? Mercedes isn't going to get them. Ferrari's not going to get them. It's just the way the season is shaping out. That being said, every point still matters, right? Because at the end of the season, you want to get as much money as you can from where you place. So Max is doing a fantastic job for himself, but he's the only one keeping the team afloat in the fight, right? So I think they're going to just try and milk every last point that they can. And in all fairness, we saw a very rare mistake at Silverstone by Max Verstappen. It's not often you see him make a mistake like that where he loops the
Yeah.
car himself. It's so
Mm-hmm.
rare. I that's just a one off. I think he's going to recover. I think the next half of the season he's still going to be able to fight for those lower podium positions. So by lower podium, I mean third. that's probably where he's going to end up fighting, right? We
Yeah.
saw how dominant that the McLarens were in the last race, and they just seem to be getting more and more dominant every single race that comes up. So they're just going to have to keep fighting. That's the only way I
Yeah.
can see it.
Max is current
2026 it has the rule changes, right? So we can't really speculate about that. It's this far out.
Max is currently third in the drivers and Red Bull fourth in the constructors. So, yeah, I think you're right. They definitely need to keep pushing to get as much result as they can for the money's sake.
The car is there, right? If their second driver can just manage to get some points, I think they can take third, maybe even second in the constructors. I think Verstappen, despite the troubles that Red Bull are having, he is putting himself in a really good position. I think he could still manage to get third out of the
Yeah.
championship. So,
Yeah, I mean he's got a fairly decent grasp on third. He's 18 points ahead of George Russell. That I mean 18 points could be made up really quickly in the right circumstances, a max DNF and a good finish by George. Um, but like you said, Max makes so few mistakes. It's unlikely that he's going to have a DNF unless somebody takes him out or something like that. I guess they could have car trouble, but they haven't really had too many reliability issues in a while. The team, the constructors, Red Bull is 50 points off of Ferrari in second, so they're in fourth, but it's only 50-point gap. If they get good production out of their second driver, if Ferrari has a bad weekend, they have had bad weekends before. They had 2
right.
disqualifications earlier this year. I mean that lead could evaporate very quickly if in the right circumstances. I don't know if it's likely, but it could happen. So I would say that there is hope that this isn't a lost cause. I just don't. Yeah, like you said, short of a catastrophic downturn, McLaren isn't going anywhere. They're so far out. I think we said this early in the season. Like P2, the battle for P2, P3 is going to be a very interesting one down the rest of the
Yes,
season.
it definitely will.
And I hope that there's not an attitude of just binning the season from Red Bull. Crazy times in Formula One right now, midway through the season. So we just finished Silverstone, in which we saw Lando Norris kind of pull out an amazing home victory, right? So that was sort of what set us up for what we wanted to talk about this week. Was we got to thinking, well, Lando has this kind of legendary home win at Silverstone, British driver at the British Grand Prix, and we got to thinking, well, what are some of our favorite home race wins? So that's kind of the topic of the day. Should we go ahead and jump into that right now, James? You want to talk about our
Absolutely,
favorite
man. That
home
was
wins?
such a good segue. I could not have done it better myself. uh,
I'm
yeah,
like
so
Job Bluth with my segues.
that's a solid reference, man. So yeah, we each decided to look at the best home victories, and we decided to pick 2 of our favorites. I will start, and I will say one of my 2 that I picked Nigel Mansell. So Nigel Mansell had won the 86th British Grand Prix. Now, at that time, the British Grand Prix was alternating every year between Brands Hatch and Silverstone. So even though, uh, so Nigel Mansell started his career technically in 1980. He only raced 3 races, so I don't really count that towards the stats. 81 was his first full season, and when he won in 86, that was his 6th attempt at trying to win the British Grand Prix. And what's unique about that one is it is the last year they raced at Brands Hatch. So Mansell, born and bred in Great Britain, won the last Brands Hatch F1 Grand Prix. So I think that one's pretty cool. But also, I was looking at it took him 6 tries to get there, right? So Mansell started his career at Lotus. He did not qualify for his first attempt in 81, which is a real bummer, not what you want to see in front of the home crowd. He had a DNF in 82, got kind of close in 83. He finished 4th, but he was almost 40 seconds back. There's only 5 cars on the lead lap, but he had a tremendous race because he started in 18th. So not a bad effort. 84 came back at Lotus, had another DNF with the gearbox. 85, he had a DNF with Williams, his first season with Williams. And 86, finally claimed it. And that was such a good year for him. He was teammates with Nelson Piquet. Nelson Piquet qualified first. Going into Brands Hatch, it was the 9th round. He was sitting in second in the points with 38. Prost was at 39. And he ended up coming out on top, beating teammate Nelson Piquet by only 5 seconds. So a great race. I should say, the Williams were so dominant that race. They were the only 2 cars on the lead lap by the end of the race.
Oh man.
Which is a crazy stat. I mean, you go back and look at all these 80s races, that's usually the status quo. There's like 4, maybe 5 cars on the lead lap, and only 10 cars finished out of the 24 or so cars that started the race, with a handful of cars not even qualifying. So 80s were a crazy time in Formula One. But what a win, and what a landmark to have that be the last Brands Hatch race, and you take it in front of the home crowd. Amazing. I should say that
awesome.
season he finished second in the driver's standing, and Williams took the constructors that year. So a great year for Williams coming up.
Yeah, back in the Williams glory days, huh?
Yeah, some of them.
Yeah. So you make an interesting point, and I think we've talked about this a little in the past, but yeah, in doing some of this historical research and looking back, it was very common for many races where you know there was only a few cars on that lead lap, and people were getting lapped a lot. So it was, we look at things like in the recent history of Formula One, Mercedes and Red Bull being these dominant cars, right? But
yes,
there's way more parity right now than there was back in the day in Formula One. I think it's good sometimes to remind ourselves of that perspective, because nowadays, there might be 5 cars that are lapped. Sometimes in a really dominant drive, you'll get half the field lapped, but the point scoring cars are oftentimes all in the lead lap. So that's pretty. I think that's a good sign for Formula One. Parity in sports is usually a good thing. Rather than things just being dynastic and dominant on one side, because it gets boring when there's just one team that always dominates. So anyway, that's a tangent.
Yeah, so that was my pick. And just to kind of go off of that, the next year was the year where Silverstone took over as the full-time. He came back and won the 87, the opening Silverstone permanent Grand Prix. So not a bad back-to-back for Nigel Mansell.
And he's featured in your painting behind you, right?
He is featured in my painting, featured in my little mini figure over here. Yeah, so that was one of my picks.
Is Mansell your favorite all-time driver?
He's one of my all-time favorites. I think because he's probably the driver I have the first memory of being enamored with, because I grew up in Southern California, and I used to go to the Long Beach Grand Prix all the time. We grew up watching IndyCar, mainly just because of timing. I wasn't going to get up at 5, 6 in the morning to watch the F1 races if they were even being broadcast in the States at that time, and if we even had the correct channel. So in IndyCar, he came over, and my dad kind of had built him up like, he just won the F1 championship, and now he's going to race here. And he ended up winning the kart championship that year, back to back. The only driver to do so, which is crazy. And so then I started learning about the history, and I've always liked Williams. Williams, I was always a fan of since I was young. And then I found out he used to drive for Williams, and that's who he won the championship with. And it was just a perfect melting pot. So one of my all-time favorites.
Nice. I love it.
Who was your first pick for best home Grand Prix victory?
My first pick was a much more recent one, Charles Leclerc at Monaco last year, 2024.
Man, what a good
Um,
one.
yeah, I mean, it was like it was. I got a tear in my eye when I was watching that race, just seeing him. So it starts with the fact that um, Leclerc is. I really get a sense from him. He's a nice, good, humble human being. Um, he wasn't treating himself as such after last week's qualifying.
Right.
He cussed himself out at qualifying sixth, I think it was, and so but yeah, he is I like him as a personality, kind of a soft spoken uh, uh, guy, and I like his he likes to play the piano. He's like a music guy, so I kind of have that thing. I'm a music person too, as people can see my electronic drum kit over there. I don't know if you can see it over here. I got my bass guitar here. I don't have my best guitar here, but anyway, so music stuff. He likes to play the piano. But anyway, he is a Monegasque. He's from Monaco. He's legit from Monaco. A lot of the racing drivers live in Monaco, but he's from there, born and raised, grew up watching the circuit. You know, he rides his bike to this day around Monaco. People say hi to him out there on his bike. And of course, Monaco is we've talked about it before. It's the crown jewel of Formula One racing, right? It's whatever, it's got this prestige, this history, this beauty about it. So really, in Formula One, there has not been a home victory from a Monegasque driver in Monaco. There was a guy that won the what was called the Monaco Grand Prix. And I don't know how to say his name, Louis Chiron, maybe. It looks like Chiron in English. It was 1931. That predates Formula One. So I can hardly
Okay.
imagine automobiles hadn't really been around that long at that point. So, but yeah, so he's really the only Monegasque driver to win a Monaco Grand Prix. So that would be a huge achievement in and of itself. It was I think this adds a little something to it. It was the third time that he started from pole at Monaco, and he started to get um, this sort of bad luck moniker for the Monaco Grand Prix. There, he had like I said, qualified from on pole 2 times. In 2021, he got an amazing pole lap, but then I think he went for another one and hit the wall. Was it at swimming pool? I can't remember. But he hit the wall and ended the session securing his pole position. But then he hit the wall so hard, he damaged his gearbox, and the mechanics could not get his car into a drivable condition by the start of the race the next day. So he missed out, which was a huge bummer. In fact, I remember in the time between the qualifying and the race, people were speculating that he crashed on purpose to try to secure the pole with the red flag. And I mean, that became obvious that that wasn't his goal when he wasn't even able to start the race. So that was sort of like the start of the bad luck um, curse for him that year. And then in 2022, he dominated in qualifying. Every round of qualifying, he was the fastest car in 2022. But then the strategy caught him out, and he wasn't able to win and convert the pole to a victory, which is extremely rare, right? At
Right.
Monaco, you don't normally see this happen, but somehow Ferrari bungled it, and through pit stops, he lost that race as well. Okay, so then 2023 he did not get pole, but in 2024 he gets pole, um, and converts that pole position into the win. It was his first win in 2 years uh, by that time. So you know, that in and of itself created a bit of drama. You know, people were not expecting him to win the 2024 Monaco Grand Prix um, because of his kind of gap in performance. It seemed that Ferrari had dropped off a bit. Anyway, yeah, ends up winning the Monaco Grand Prix in 2024. It's huge. Everybody there is blown away. I mean, those people love racing in Monaco. It's sort of the identity of that town. Like I said, a lot of racing drivers live there, so it's, it was like pure national pride and enjoyment for that small country. And from what I hear, people were celebrating in the streets. People still look
Oh,
at
I'm sure.
him as a national hero because of that. And like I said, he rides bike around in there in Monte Carlo. So that was very cool. I loved it. I loved it for Charles. I thought it was great. It was a deserved win. He is a great driver, especially a great qualifier. He's known for his performances in qualifying, and that's what really this Monaco race has kind of become in the last several,
Right.
probably decade or so of Formula One racing. And so he got the job done. That was my first pick.
Man, that is such a good one. I remember that qualifying session where he took pole and then hit the barrier at the pool, messed up his gearbox. One, because I was immediately heartbroken, right? Because it's
Yeah.
always cool and fun to see drivers win their home Grand Prix, but
Mm-hmm.
come race day, man, he was blowing through the field coming from the far back. I couldn't believe the moves he was making, particularly at Rascass. Like he was just dive bombing people almost every single lap and was moving up until his luck ran out and he caught the wall. And man, what a
Yeah.
heartbreak! But I definitely remember it. It was it was such a good one, and of course, that's a really good home Grand Prix win. For my
Yep.
second one, though, I think it's going to be what most people would agree is the greatest all-time home victory, and that is Senna's home victory in Brazil. Uh, it was his eighth attempt at doing it. So Mansell's was sixth, Senna eight. Senna debuted in '84, of course, with Tolman, and at that time they were racing at the Rio de Janeiro circuit, so it wasn't um,
Sao Paulo.
Interlagos. Yeah, which the Rio circuit has been renamed to the Nelson Piquet circuit now. So whatever you want to call it. But his first four attempts were all, where his first two attempts were DNFs. He took a second place so close in '86 when he was with Lotus. He finished second. He was 34 seconds back on competitor Nelson Piquet, who took the victory. Had another two DNFs, and then kind of a rocky one in '89. He finished 11th. Well, depends on where you look. If you look on the official F1 like roster, it says that he finished 11th, but 2 laps down. But if you go and look elsewhere and you watch the race, about lap 27, he got a black flag and had to retire the car.
Mm.
So there's some sort of something wrong. Some historian on F1 didn't put the stats in properly for that one, I think.
Hmm.
Um,
Better
but he
write him a
did start.
letter.
Yeah, he did start, but he had a good race. He started from the back, um, in the spare car because after the parade lap, his initial car broke down, drove it in, got in the spare car, and left, which is ultimately why he got the black flag. Not allowed to do that. But starting from the pits, pushed it all the way up to second. So I mean, in all fairness, he wasn't a McLaren. McLarens were just dominant at that period in time. Then come '90, he finished third, and then finally in '91, the great home win of Ayrton Senna, his first win at Interlagos. Uh, there was rain during the race. He only beat out Riccardo Patrese by about 3 seconds. And the story goes he had gearbox issues. He was stuck in sixth gear, I believe it was. And fortunately for him, Riccardo Patrese was also suffering some gearbox issues and just couldn't put the power down to make the pass. But quite famously, you hear Senna yelling and screaming over the team radio when he won, and had to be helped from the car because he was so physically exhausted from the race that he even had to be driven to the podium in the medical car. But somehow found the strength and the will to lift the trophy above his head. How does it get better than that, man? Winning the home Grand Prix after 7 failed attempts, man. What a good one. And of course he
Yeah.
won it in '93 and well. So he had 2 home victories. Not a bad time for him.
Senna is one of those drivers that's on a lot of people's, Mount Rushmore of drivers. We lost him too soon.
Yep.
And you what the victory that you described, I believe, is portrayed in there's a really good F1 documentary called Senna. If you
Yep.
haven't watched it yet, and if people listening haven't watched it yet, you should watch it. That was actually the first thing that got me into Formula One, was watching the Senna documentary.
Is that right?
Yeah, so I didn't go all in until I watched Drive to Survive, and like kind of like um, sort of piqued the interest even more. But yeah, the Senna documentary came out in, I want to say like 2015 ish. I don't remember, but it came out before Drive to Survive,
Right.
and was I watched that, and you see I believe it was in that drive you mentioned where, because he was like physically exhausted. People think that racing is not athletic and a particularly athletic endeavor, and I can understand why people would say that. You're driving a car, but when you're driving these cars at this speed, you're first of all subject to G forces, which are straining on your neck, your shoulders, your back, and then uh, not all these cars back in the day too were like power steering, right? So like you're fighting a car going at very high speeds, and it's just it's an endurance race. I mean, it takes an hour and a half, 2 hours to finish one of these races. And Senna, when he got out of the car, he like was his arms were like permanently stuck like this,
Right.
and they had to help the guy out. I mean, it is a physically demanding sport. You saw that
Well,
with
also
Senna.
at that time they weren't using power steering.
Yeah, just no
Uh,
power steering
no
at
power
all,
steering.
right?
So much like how the Indy cars of today don't use power steering. Um,
It
those
takes a
guys.
tremendous amount of effort to
Yes.
force that car at 200 miles an hour around a racing circuit for an hour and a half, 2 hours. It
Yeah.
is exhausting.
I've not to compare myself, but I've driven a 55 Ford with no power steering, and it is unbelievably hard to turn those cars with no power steering. You are really cranking. So I can only imagine adding extra G force and extra pressure trying to turn that car around a circuit for over an hour. Like it's it's physically brutal.
Oh yeah. My best friend growing up, when we turned 16, he got a car. It was a Mazda, an old Mazda 3 or something like that. Like, it was a small little sedan, and it had no power steering. And this guy got monster forearms driving this thing around. I was like, man, I want a car with no power steering. It's a workout.
Yeah. But yes, you're right. The Senna documentary, just a great documentary overall. If you're looking for a good documentary to watch, that is the one.
and
But
it
yeah,
and it has
those are my two. What would be your last pick?
I'll tell you my pick. One last thing about the Senna documentary. It definitely leads directly into current Formula One, because they made some pretty significant safety overhauls after he died
Correct.
in a crash on the track at, was it at Monza, Imola,
Imola.
Imola.
Hmm.
So anyway, if you really are getting into Formula One now, you got to watch Senna, because it does set you up for
Yes.
some of this history. Okay, my next one is um, I had to give credit where credit is due. Lewis Hamilton. Um,
I
I
knew it was
picked
coming. I
I
knew
picked
it.
Lewis Hamilton. Yeah, well, I mean, we'd be remiss to not mention Lewis Hamilton in this. He has won more home Grand Prix than anybody else. I've said it before on this podcast, where I've been disappointed numerous times looking for a home Grand Prix win. I hear people on other podcasts talking up, oh, this is his home victory. I think he's going to really do something special. And a lot of times it doesn't happen. But Lewis has won a home Grand Prix 9 times. Um, I
Which is an
say that.
amazing feat. I think he's the only driver to have that many home victories, right?
Oh yeah, he's clearly he's done the home victory more than anybody else, and Silverstone is no easy track to win at. His first home victory was in 2008, and it was his second season in Formula One. So if I've got that right, so he was a young driver, and uh, he won from fourth. So, it's not easy to win from fourth ever. He wins from fourth. It's mixed conditions. It's raining. The highlights were fantastic, by the way. You can find these highlights pretty easily searching it up on the web. Do it because it was a crazy wild race with a lot of people, including some big names going off the track. Like you said earlier, it was in that era still when it was not uncommon for a lot of cars to get lapped. Only two cars were not lapped. The fourth car, I think, might have been Kimi Räikkönen was
Oh, is
in
that right?
P4. Um, so anyway, I felt like this was a huge win for Lewis and making a huge statement in only his second season of Formula One racing. It would be 6 years before he won Silverstone again. So you can kind of see, like, it wasn't that his car was just dominant, which is an accusation that a lot of people make at Lewis Hamilton. He was not in the Mercedes, by the way, when this occurred.
Right,
So
he was at McLaren.
he was at McLaren, but yeah, he had a big gap, which is a big deal. Some of these guys, they win a race, they think it's going to be cake to win it again. And it took him 6 more years before he was able to win at Silverstone again. So, and one of the things that is crazy about this win, he was pulling 5 to 6 seconds a lap better times than anybody else on the grid for several laps. So yeah, he was dominant, and it was a statement win for Lewis Hamilton, who, of course, we were talking before about the Mount Rushmores of auto racing or of Formula One, and I don't know too many people that wouldn't put Lewis Hamilton on that Mount Rushmore. It's kind of him and Schumacher who are the certain ones, who are they're the Abe
Right.
Lincoln and the George Washington of that Mount Rushmore, right? Like, we know they're going to be on there. The others are like, they it's debatable, but Lewis is one of those. That was 2008, but I had to mention a couple other Lewis Hamilton home wins. Actually, the one that probably was my favorite one was 2020. In 2020, we're in the height of the pandemic. There's no fans. It was one of the craziest races I've ever witnessed. Kvyat had a big shunt at Maggots, hit the wall. But ultimately, what happened there was, and then Kimi Räikkönen had a front wing failure. I think he was driving for Alfa Romeo at that time. And so there was like all this like drama. But then what really happened was that people's tires started to fail in 2020. The Pirelli tires were dropping off, and we had multiple cars. Sainz had a late tire failure. Bottas had a tire failure, and he was driving from P2, and this messed up Bottas. So Bottas and Hamilton were the Mercedes drivers. Bottas was in P2. Lewis was in P1. Bottas has this tire failure, starts dropping back the order. Max Verstappen pits to avoid the same tire failure and starts climbing the order. And Hamilton is in first place, but his tire dies on the last lap. His front left, I think it was, blows out, and he limps around the track just trying to get to the finish line before Max can catch him. And, of course, the Max and Lewis rivalry was in the thick of it right then. And so for him to cross the finish line on three wheels, it was one of the craziest finishes that I've ever seen. I was just like holding my face like this. People are dropping out of this race like crazy. What is going on with these tires? Pirelli eventually even investigated it because so many people's tires were failing in that race. And ultimately, all that they said was it was caused by the exceedingly long stints that they were on.
Right.
And the speed of the 2020 car was unaccounted for. And evidently, that was causing more wear on these tires. So that seems like a complete cop out from Pirelli, in my opinion. But But yeah, to have these guys pushing the tires to their very limit, including going over the limit and having punctures, but still finishing the race, it was one of the craziest races. And I don't know, maybe I was affected too because it was the middle of the pandemic and I needed something to be excited about besides COVID-19. So, and then I will give one last thing. I know I talked for way too long, but 2024 honorable mention for Lewis Hamilton winning at Silverstone. I mean, it was a huge win for Mercedes after battling the porpoising issues from the new regulations for the past season and a half. It was Lewis's first win in 3 seasons, and he ended up beating Max Verstappen, and unfortunately George had to retire that one due to a water leak. Who actually George was on pole, but 2024 was huge, and that actually made me question whether his move to Ferrari was a smart move, because he was capable of winning still with the Mercedes. That
Right.
showed that he could still win races. So, and anyway, a lot of stuff to talk about for Lewis Hamilton and home victories. The most decorated home Grand Prix winner that's out there.
Yeah, man. I gotta say, the 2020 British Grand Prix, I distinctly remember that because it was a nail biter of a race. The whole race, something was going on. And when I saw Lewis's tire blow, I stopped breathing. My hands were in the air. And I was like, man, Verstappen might get this guy. And I think he only finished like 5 seconds back. Like he
Yeah.
was closing the gap quickly.
Yes. Right.
Uh, Lewis was very lucky to not have a second tire blowout. Otherwise, it would have been a real disaster. But
It
yeah,
was
man,
like
what a fantastic race.
it was like real life Cars the movie,
Yeah,
the Disney Pixar movie.
I would definitely say that's probably one of the. If I didn't pick the two I had, I think that one would also be in a top contender. It's such a good one. You picked two
Yeah.
really good ones.
And so did you. I mean, there's a lot to choose from, but I mean, and I don't know. There's too many to really say like what was the best. Although the Senna one could have been the best one. I don't know that. There are a lot of people that think that was the greatest home victory out there, and I'd be hard pressed to argue that.
Yeah, just a different time.
Yeah.
Every decade something new. Since you're not going to be with us next week, did you want to make a bold prediction about the Spa Grand Prix?
Well, I hadn't thought about it, but that maybe that will be my bold prediction, is that Max wins at Spa. That will be bold, only because he hasn't been winning of late. They had a huge shakeup at Red Bull, and so I think this is going to be a chance for Max to show that he is the most focused driver out there. Nobody's more focused than him, and in the midst of all this turmoil, Max pulls a quote unquote home win at Spa.
All right, that's a very bold prediction. I think that's going to be a good one.
You gonna hit me with yours, or are you gonna wait till next week?
Oh, I'm gonna wait till next week. You're gonna have to wait till post Spa to find out what they are. Well, thanks for joining me this morning. I'm gonna miss you next week, but I will see you post Spa.
All right, that sounds good.
All right, man. Adios.
Adios.